Veterinarians have a name for the look. They have been writing it down for decades, in case files, in end-of-life surveys, in palliative care notes. Owners describe it almost identically every time, a kind of settled gaze that arrives without warning and changes the air in the room. What recent science is showing is that the look is not sudden at all. By the time you see it, your dog has been arriving at it for months, and the trajectory is more readable than anyone used to think. Most owners walk into their dog's final hours, believing the moment is going to be loud. They expect signs that announce themselves: a collapse, a refusal to eat, a clear physical breakdown that gives the day a beginning and an end. The reality is quieter than that, and it begins much earlier. The behaviors people describe in the last hours are often the surface of a slow neurological process that started somewhere in the previous year, sometimes the previous 2 years. The dog who suddenly seems different at the end has, in measurable ways, been different for a while. Owners just did not have a name for what they were watching. The largest cognitive study ever conducted on companion dogs comes out of the Dog Aging Project in the United States, led by Sarah Yarborough and colleagues, and published in Scientific Reports in 2022. The team gathered standardized cognitive assessments on 15,019 pet dogs, ordinary dogs in ordinary homes across the country, and ran the numbers on what actually changes inside an aging dog's brain. What they found reframes how we should think about every senior dog moment. Each additional year of a dog's life raises the odds of canine cognitive dysfunction by roughly 52%, not a small drift. A compounding curve, the same kind of curve that shapes human dementia. The hallmark symptoms parallel ours almost line for line: memory and learning deficits, disorientation, altered social interactions, disturbed sleep cycles. The dog who stops walking over when you sit down on the couch. The dog who takes a half-second longer to find the food bowl they have walked to every day for 10 years. The dog who wakes at 3 in the morning, stands in the hallway, and seems to forget what they were doing there. These are not quirks. They are the measurable opening notes of the trajectory that ends in the look. While cognitive science describes what is happening inside the brain, palliative veterinary medicine describes what shows up on the outside. A 2024 review of veterinary palliative care detailed the cluster of signs that hospice teams have been trained to watch for in dogs entering their final weeks. The pattern is consistent enough to be almost a checklist, though the language stays soft because every dog wears it differently. Appetite drops, movement slows, anxiety rises, especially at night. One case in the review followed a 14-year-old dog whose late-stage symptoms moved through complete loss of appetite, an extreme tiredness that flattened the day, and a restlessness after dark that made sleep difficult for both the dog and the family. Hospice teams track these signals because each one tells them something specific. Eating tells them about pain and nausea. Mobility tells them about strength and balance. Mood tells them about cognition. Breathing tells them about how much work the body is still doing. None of these signs alone is a verdict. Together, they form a picture. And it is this picture, the quiet cluster, that produces the look most owners eventually describe. The look does not arrive from nowhere. It arrives at the bottom of a long, observable slope. Here is where the story gets stranger, and where many owners quietly blame themselves without reason. In 2020, a team of researchers working through the Clever Dog Lab tradition in Austria and the UK ran cognitive and behavioral testing on 119 pet dogs, all aged over 6. They followed the dogs across a year and tracked how their behavior shifted as they aged into the senior range. Most of what they found lined up with expectation. Older dogs became less curious, less playful, less bold around new things, but one finding split in 2 directions. Some senior dogs became more distant from their owners, drifting toward aloofness, sleeping in different rooms, asking for less contact. Other senior dogs went the opposite way, becoming unusually clingy, following their person from room to room, pressing close in a way they never had before. Same age, same condition, opposite behaviors. Owners who watch their old dog grow distant often wonder if the dog is angry or no longer attached. Owners who watch their old dog become a shadow often wonder if the dog is afraid or in pain. Neither reading is the full story. Both behaviors are real, measured responses to the same underlying neurological change. The dial just moves in different directions for different dogs. It is not a verdict on the bond. It is a verdict on the brain. There is something worth sitting with here. When humans age into late-stage dementia, families describe a similar split. Some grandparents withdraw into themselves. Some grandparents reach for the people they love more often, more urgently, less verbally. The mechanism in dogs is not identical, but the pattern rhymes. Both species, given enough time and enough cognitive change, narrow the world down to a smaller set of essential things: smell, warmth, the shape of the people who are familiar. The dog who climbs into your lap for the first time in years is not asking for forgiveness. They are answering a simpler question: who is still here? The dog who walks away into another room is not punishing you. They are settling somewhere their nervous system finds easier. Both are still your dog. Both are saying the only thing left to say in the only language they have left to say it in. This is also where the practical question lives, and where the science offers something genuinely useful. In 2024, a team led by Jamie Pearson published an analysis of 2,570 end-of-life surveys collected through the Dog Aging Project, the largest dataset of its kind in the United States. They looked at what predicted the difficult decisions families make when their dogs are dying. The findings surprised many people. Age itself was not the variable that mattered. What predicted the path forward was the number of symptoms a dog was showing and the dog's overall quality of life. Nearly half of the owners cited uncontrolled pain or visible suffering as the reason they made the choices they made. The number on the calendar mattered far less than what the dog was experiencing in the present hour. This is the quiet, important thing the science offers. The look you eventually see in your dog has been arriving for months, which means you have months to read it. Sudden disorientation in a familiar room, wandering at night, a flatness around food, a new anxiety that did not exist before. Any one of these is worth a vet visit, not because something is wrong, because something is changing, and a vet who knows your dog can help you understand what stage of the change you are in. What veterinarians described in a 2025 survey of U.S. practitioners almost unanimously is that late-stage canine cognitive decline looks less like memory loss and more like a personality shift. Old dogs do not just forget tricks. They react differently to the same room, the same people, the same evening. They become someone slightly new inside the body you have known for a decade. The look most owners eventually describe sits inside this larger pattern. It is not a single moment. It is the moment the personality shift completes itself into stillness. The puzzled gaze of the previous month settles. The wandering stops. The dog who had been negotiating with a changing brain finally meets it where it is. That is the look. And it is, in its own quiet way, a kind of arrival rather than a leaving. Veterinarians have a name for the look, but most owners never need one. They know it when they see it. What science has done in the last few years is fill in everything that comes before, the months and the small signs and the half-second pauses that, taken together, become the slow shape of an old dog's last chapter. The look is not where the story begins. It is where the story finally rests. If you want to keep understanding what is really happening inside the dogs we live with, this channel was built around exactly that question. Subscribe so the work keeps finding you. Stay close to your old dog tonight. The quiet they grow into is not a goodbye. It is the truest thing they have ever shown you.